Hello, welcome. I'm Pauline from PQW. I just want to talk to you a little bit about some of the tools that I've designed, and I've designed them because I was having trouble getting my points and everything accurate. I found out that we had a lot of rulers out there all measure different measurements. So I just want to show you the handy little pack that I've put together that may help you if you're having struggles making your piece blocks and getting all of the points to match perfect and getting the block to turn out the accurate size. So, a lot of people shy away from making blocks that have got lots of points on them, because if you use one ruler to cut your strips of fabric and then you pick up another ruler to cross cut them, you're probably going to have the trouble with inaccuracy happening. You really need to check all your rulers and see that they measure the same. So this is just my handy little set here that I use a lot of the times to make my blocks. I love my 12.5-inch square ruler for trimming my blocks back. I think it's just I think everybody that quilts would probably own a 12.5-inch ruler. I like the 10 by 5 because if we're working on layer cakes, they're 10 inches square, so you can use this 10 by 5 to cut them in half or in quarters. It's just a handy little tool. Always the 6.5-inch ruler is a great tool for trimming back. And this little ruler, the 1 inch by 10 inch, I love that ruler. I use it so many times for drawing up lines, for drawing a grid on my fabric, for doing all sorts of things. So I'm just going to talk about them a little bit and explain to you, if you're having trouble with accuracy, what to look out for. I use the double fork pins, and I'll show you how to use them, and I've been using these for years and years and years and years, and just they are the best thing to match your points perfect. And I do most of my cutting with the little 18mm rotary cutter. So I'm just going to clear the deck and I'll go through a few cutting tips for you, just to help you understand what could be going on with your rulers. I find that a lot of rulers at the 1 inch or at the inch measurements, the lines can be on those measurements can be a lot thicker than all the other measurements. So what I'm saying is the inch lines or the inch measurements need to be exactly the same thickness as the quarter, the half, the eighths and the 16ths. They all should be the same thickness, and they all should be the thickness of a thread. We all sew with a regular thread, which are, there are different weight threads out there, but we basically piece our quilts together with the same weight thread. These lines on our rulers should be the same thickness as our thread, and we make sure ours are, because we want to sew with a 1/4 inch foot on the machine. So you need the 1/4 inch foot on your machine to be the same 1/4 inch as what your ruler is. I find that you should be able to lay your rulers on top of each other. We'll just stack these up. We should be able to lay the rulers on top of each other and make sure all the lines measure and line up to be exactly the same. So when I put these down and I make sure the edges are all level, I know that every single line on all of those rulers all are in exactly the same position. So there's no thick lines, no thin lines, they're the right width lines. The other thing that I was always having trouble with was when I'd put my fabric down to cut, just open up to the cutting board, I used to have a lot of trouble with rulers slipping. So I made sure when we manufacture ours, we engrave deep into the back of the ruler. You can hear my fingernails running over that. That's the engraving. It's engraved in very deep. Now our rulers don't slip. So that's another little thing to watch out for. I don't have to put any grips on the back or anything else on the back of the rulers. They're designed so they don't slip. So I just find them very, very handy when cutting out. We'll just grab this piece of fabric. No, the purple will be better. I've folded the fabric up, and if you want to learn how to fold your fabric properly, how to cut properly, if you go to our YouTube channel and you look up Lulu's quilt, which is this quilt here, if you look that up and go in and look at, I think there's 3 or 4 videos on Lulu's quilt, it will show you how I fold the fabric, how I cut, how I manoeuvre everything around my sewing table, how I piece the blocks so they come out perfect. So that's a good reference for you to go to. And we do have Lulu's quilt as a pack that you can buy all the templates and all the things that you need to make that quilt. We don't do the fabrics, we don't sell fabrics, we're just all about tools. So I'm just going to fold this fabric. It's a fat quarter and I just fold it over and over. That's where I find this little ruler very, very handy. Just pull it across. I want to straighten the edge off. And it allows you to work in a small area using a smaller ruler. I'm not a believer in a big long ruler. I hardly ever use a 24-inch ruler. I use a 12 by 6 inch or the 10 by 5. So cutting out, let's just cut a 3-inch strip. Just place it down and cut. And then I find if I pick up this and want to cut a 3-inch strip, because my rulers measure exactly the same, I know that's going to come out to be an exact, perfect square. A lot of times when we cut a strip with one ruler and then we cross-cut with another, and you fold it in half like this, a lot of times you'll see that they don't match. That means your ruler's out in measurement. And if you noticed, I used the little rotary cutter, and I'm going to cut another piece for you, because I find using a big blade or a big cutter that's got a big, say a 45mm blade, I find that as I cut, it starts to move the fabric, because I believe the bigger the blade, the bigger the rotation, the more it drags your fabric. If you use a little blade, you can't run up onto the ruler. It's near impossible to run up on the ruler, which means you're not blunting the ruler. And also your fabric doesn't move away from you. You get no distortion. So that's why I recommend that. Now, if I've cut a square and I need to cut that across on the diagonal, this is where this little ruler is very, very handy. I just find it easier than using a bigger ruler. And, you know, it's not necessary for everybody to have a good collection of rulers, but I think if you want to be really accurate with your piecing and make beautiful quilts, it is a great investment. So now I just want to show you about the fork pins, about pinning, because I find when we're joining our blocks together, we can have difficulties. I'll just press these seams opened. And in all the videos for Lulu's quilts, you get all the tips on pressing accurately and everything like that. So it's well worth watching that series of videos. And we've had a lot of people make this quilt up, and we get the photos in of them, and they're just stunning. So now we've got our two seams. We've pressed to the dark. We're aligning the seams up. We want them to nest in together. And I'll just grab one of these little fork pins. I'll just put it out here so you can see that. So it's a twin pin. It's joined together. It's got a nice little end on it that we can grab in our hand nice and easy. We're going to pin from the inside to the outside. I don't pin from the outside in, I pin from the inside out. They're very flexible, and all we do is go through and back up. And if you have the pin back a little bit, as we stitch across here, we're not going to run over the pin. So the pin doesn't have to come right to the end. So that's how I pin. When I'm pinning all my rows together, to get all of these aligned up, we'll just open this one out. And I want to put this one on top to complete the block. Just grab another pin. We've got our seams going in the opposite directions. We're going to nest those seams in against each other. We're going to pin back down a bit. We'll just use this pin. Come back down. Nest that in. Oops, got to get hold of it. Pin it in. Then when I stitch across, I'm going to end up with those points matching absolutely perfect. If your rulers are accurate, your cutter doesn't distort as you cut and you use those fork pens, you'll always end up with those beautiful, beautiful points. Oh, look at that. Can you see that? That one's been stitched on upside down. Oops. So there's going to be a little bit of reverse sewing for us to do. And it's so easy to make a mistake. So it's just a little hints and tips thing for you so that you know that if you get a good collection, I think we have about 8 or 9 different size rulers in our range, but I just wanted to show you a few today, show you the little cutter and the fork pens. I really recommend the Clover brand for the fork pens. I know there's a few other brands out there. I've personally tried a couple of them and I find they're too thick and they don't go through my fabric nicely. I've got to really push them hard, so that's why I use the Clover brand. And the little mini cutter is the Clover 18mm cutter. So hope you join us. Go on to our YouTube channel, have a look at all the videos, have a look at the beautiful quilts we've got up there, learn as much as you can. Subscribe to our YouTube channel because we'd love to send you a notification when there's new videos coming out, and go to our website www.pqw.com.au. Subscribe to our newsletter, have a look around at all the tools, put a little collection together. This is a little collection that you can buy at a special price, or you might just like to purchase 1 or 2 of them. They're all there as individuals, or there is little packages there for you. So make up your own little recipe of what you need. But thank you for joining us. Until next time, happy quilting.